Mia Wilson, Crestwood High English teacher, loved Friday nights. Grading papers, a quiet house, an old movie. Tonight, Night of the Living Dead. Ironic. The power flickered. The TV died. Mia frowned. Not again.
Mia, get out. They're everywhere.
The line went dead. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced Mia's gut. Something was terribly wrong. A frantic pounding on the front door. Tom, her neighbor, face pale, eyes wide with terror.
Mia, it's happening. The news said they're...
Zombies, Mia finished, her voice a whisper. The word felt absurd, unreal. Yet the fear in Tom's eyes, the screams echoing in the night, painted a horrifyingly clear picture.
We have to get out of here. My car's in the driveway. We need to find Rachel.
Mia nodded, her mind racing. Survival depended on action, not denial. They moved quickly, adrenaline dulling the shock. Mia grabbed her go-bag, always stocked for emergencies. Flashlight, first aid kit, protein bars, ready for anything except this. The streets were a chaotic mess. Abandoned cars, their horns blaring, littered the road. People, some screaming, some eerily silent, ran in all directions. The air reeked of fear and something else, metallic, coppery.
Rachel!
Mia's voice, sharp with panic, cut through the air. No answer, just the moans of them. They were here. Mia's blood ran cold. They had to find Rachel, but they also had to survive. They found Rachel huddled in the stockroom, pale and shaken, but unharmed. Her eyes darted around the room, reflecting the terror she had just experienced. The stockroom, usually a place of mundane supplies, now felt like a fragile sanctuary amidst the chaos. Relief washed over Mia, quickly replaced by a surge of fierce protectiveness. She had always been the strong one, the one who kept everyone together. Now, more than ever, she needed to be the pillar of strength for Rachel and the others. They had to get out of Crestwood now. The town, once a place of safety and community, had turned into a nightmare. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat, every sound a potential danger. The urgency of their escape was palpable, a race against time and terror.
Let's go, follow me. Tom's voice was steady, a beacon of calm in the storm. He had always been the planner, the one who thought ahead. Now his quick thinking and knowledge of the town's layout were their best hope.
Tom led the way, navigating the deserted streets, his knowledge of Crestwood's backroads proving invaluable. The familiar paths now seemed alien, twisted by the night's events. Every corner they turned was a step into the unknown, but Tom's confidence kept them moving. They reached Mia's car, parked near the high school. The sight of the vehicle brought a momentary sense of relief, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. It was their ticket out, their chance at survival. The engine roared to life, headlights cut through the darkness, momentarily blinding a group of them, shambling towards the school gates. The creatures, once human, were now twisted by an insatiable hunger. The brief illumination revealed their grotesque forms, sending a wave of fear through the group. The sight sent chills down Mia's spine. They weren't the slow, lumbering creatures of movies. These things were fast, driven by a hunger that chilled her to the bone. Their speed and ferocity were a stark contrast to the shambling zombies of fiction. These things were fast, driven by a hunger that chilled her to the bone. The group had to move quickly, every second counted. The creatures were relentless, their pursuit unending. The fear of being caught spurred them on, adrenaline pumping through their veins. They had to get out of here fast. The car sped through the dark streets, the engine's roar a constant reminder of their desperate flight. Every turn, every acceleration was a gamble, a hope that they could outrun the nightmare that Crestwood had become. The road ahead was uncertain, but staying was not an option. Their only choice was to keep moving, to escape the horrors that lurked in the shadows. The highway out of Crestwood was a parking lot. Cars were left in disarray, doors flung open, belongings scattered on the asphalt. It was as if everyone had fled in a blind panic, leaving behind a trail of chaos and confusion. Abandoned cars stretched as far as the eye could see. The once bustling highway now stood as a graveyard of metal and rubber, a testament to the sudden and terrifying exodus that had gripped the town. A cacophony of car horns, screams, and the sickening moans of the infected filled the air. The soundscape was a haunting symphony of despair, echoing through the deserted streets and into the hearts of those still trying to escape. Panic welled up in Mia's chest. Her heart raced as she glanced around, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She could feel the fear of those around her, a collective anxiety that threatened to overwhelm.
We're trapped. The words hung in the air, a stark realization of their dire predicament. The group exchanged worried glances, each person grappling with their own rising dread.
Rachel whispered, her voice trembling. What are we going to do? Her question was met with silence, the weight of their situation rendering them momentarily speechless. Tom, ever resourceful, pointed to a narrow side road. "There," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "We can try that way. It might lead us to the old logging road."
We can try that. It might lead us to the old logging road. The group nodded in agreement, clinging to the sliver of hope that Tom's suggestion offered.
It was a long shot, but their only option. The side road was rough, littered with debris, but thankfully deserted. The path ahead was uncertain, but it was a chance they had to take. Mia gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white as she navigated the treacherous path. Every bump and jolt sent a shiver down her spine, but she pressed on, determined to find a way out. The forest pressed close on either side, the darkness beneath the trees hiding God knows what. The dense foliage seemed to close in around them, the shadows playing tricks on their minds. Every rustle and snap of a twig set their nerves on edge, but they had no choice but to keep moving forward. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the sense of isolation grew. The sounds of the highway faded into the distance, replaced by the eerie silence of the woods. They moved cautiously, every step a calculated risk in the unknown terrain. Finally, they reached the old logging road. It was overgrown and barely recognizable, but it was a path, a way out. They could only hope it would lead them to safety, away from the horrors they had left behind. They emerged from the woods onto a deserted stretch of highway. Relief washed over Mia. They were out, they had escaped. But the relief was short-lived. A roadblock, military vehicles, soldiers in hazmat suits, guns drawn. Salvation? Not quite.
Turn around. This area is under quarantine. Turn around or we will fire.
Despair threatened to engulf Mia. They were so close yet so far. What were they supposed to do?
We have to find another way. There has to be another way out.
Mia nodded, her jaw set with determination. They had come too far to give up now. They would find a way. With the highway blocked, they sought refuge in a deserted supermarket on the outskirts of town. Inside, the aisles were a jumble of overturned shelves and spilled food. The air hung heavy with the stench of decay. They found a small office at the back, relatively secure. Tom boarded up the windows while Mia and Rachel gathered supplies. Bottled water, canned goods, anything that would last. They ate in silence, the weight of their situation heavy on their hearts. Exhaustion finally claimed them. Mia lay awake, listening to the wind howling outside, the distant moans of the infected, a constant reminder of the danger lurking just beyond the boarded-up windows. Sleep was a distant dream. Morning brought a fresh wave of terror. They were surrounded, a horde of infected pressed against the supermarket windows, their moans a chilling symphony of hunger. The flimsy barricade wouldn't hold them for long.
Panic welled up in Mia's chest. They were trapped with nowhere to go.
There's a service entrance at the back, he said, his voice tight with urgency. We can make a run for it.
It was a desperate plan, but their only chance. They gathered their meager supplies, their hearts pounding in their chests. The moans grew louder, more insistent. Time was running out. Tom took the lead, armed with a crowbar he'd found. Mia and Rachel followed close behind, their eyes darting from side to side, their senses on high alert. The service entrance was a narrow corridor leading to a metal door.
They reached the door, their hearts pounding in their chests. Tom heaved it open and they were met with a scene of utter chaos.
The alleyway behind the supermarket was swarming with infected. For a moment they froze, despair threatening to engulf them.
But then Mia saw it. A delivery truck, its engine idling, parked at the far end of the alley. A glimmer of hope in the midst of despair. They made a break for it, adrenaline fueling their every step. Tom fought off the infected with the crowbar, clearing a path for Mia and Rachel. They scrambled into the truck, the stench of decay thick in the air.
Mia slammed the door shut just as the infected closed in, their moans a chorus of frustration.
The truck lurched forward, tires screeching against the asphalt. They were alive, for now. They drove through the night, the headlights cutting through the darkness, the world outside a blur of abandoned towns and deserted highways. Where were they going? They didn't know. All they knew was that they had to keep moving, had to survive. Dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange. The first light of day cast long shadows over the ruins, illuminating the remnants of a world that once thrived. The beauty of the sunrise stood in stark contrast to the devastation below, a poignant reminder of what had been lost. A new day, but the world they knew was gone. The streets, once bustling with life, now lay silent and empty, echoing with the memories of a time before the fall. Buildings stood as hollow shells, their windows shattered, their walls scarred by the chaos that had swept through. The radio crackled with static, interspersed with garbled reports of widespread panic and collapse. Voices, distorted and distant, spoke of cities falling, of governments crumbling, of a society unraveling at the seams. Each broadcast was a fragment of a larger, more terrifying picture. The world was in chaos. People ran through the streets, their faces masks of fear and desperation. Fires burned unchecked, casting an eerie glow over the night. The air was thick with the sounds of sirens, screams, and the relentless march of anarchy.
Mia looked at Rachel and Tom, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear, but also with a steely determination. They had been through so much, seen so much, yet they stood strong, their spirits unbroken. Each line on their faces told a story of survival, of resilience in the face of overwhelming odds, but also with a steely determination. Their eyes, though weary, burned with a fierce resolve. They had made it this far, and they would not give up now. They had each other, and that gave them strength.
They had survived the night. They were still alive. The darkness had been filled with terrors, but they had faced them together, drawing strength from one another. As the first light of dawn broke, they allowed themselves a moment of relief, a brief respite from the constant struggle. And they would keep fighting for as long as they had to. Each day brought new challenges, new dangers, but also new opportunities. They had learned to adapt, to be resourceful, to find hope in the smallest of victories. They knew that the road ahead would be long and arduous, but they were ready to face it.
The road ahead was long, and the future uncertain. The horizon stretched out before them, a vast expanse of the unknown. But with each step they took, they moved closer to a new beginning, a chance to rebuild, to create something new from the ashes of the old. But for now, they had each other. In the midst of the chaos, they had found a sense of community, of belonging. They had become a family, bound not by blood, but by shared experiences and a common goal. They drew comfort from one another, finding strength in their unity. And in this new, terrifying world, that was all that mattered. They were survivors. They had faced the worst and come out the other side. They had lost so much, but they had also gained something invaluable. The knowledge that they could endure, that they could overcome, and they would face whatever came next, together. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they knew they could count on each other. Together, they would navigate the uncertainties of this new world, finding hope and strength in their shared journey. They were not just surviving, they were living, and that made all the difference.